America's melting pot, the Irish experience. There are numerous turning points in American history. Immigrants were one of the many turning points during that time. Here are questions this documentary includes. Why Doyle left Ireland? Why did he go to the U.S.? What was his trip like? What social conditions did he encounter? What were his job prospects? Why I think immigration is a turning point? What happened because of Irish immigration? In what new direction did the nation or the world move as the result of Irish immigration? Did the people at the time realize that a turning point had been reached, or did it take time to assess the impact of immigration? The Gale Student Resources contain a letter from an Irish man named John Doyle. This letter was sent to his wife, who's in Ireland. It explains everything that he had gone through, and probably what many other Irish immigrants experienced. But before we get into this letter, let's first learn about John Doyle.
Doyle tried to make his living as a tradesman. He was a very skilled worker, who referred to himself as a journeyman printer. This means he had passed the apprenticeship stage, but he had not completed becoming a master of his trade. Doyle's father was part of the Tones Catholic Rebellion, and that fact tells us something about Doyle. That could have meant that Doyle was in the minority of Irish immigrants. Most skilled tradesmen was Protestants from Ulster, or the Northern Ireland. The large group of Catholics from the south of Ireland would not come for another 3 decades, so most likely Doyle was a Protestant.
Now let's get some more knowledge about John Doyle.
This letter was written on January 25th, 1818, to his wife in Ireland. Doyle, like many other Irish, had poetic language, and happened to be that their poetic language made many of them famous writers. John Doyle in this letter writes explaining and talking about his experience in the U.S. There were few that came over with Christopher Columbus in 1942, but that is beyond our time period. We are going to focus on Irish immigration during the 1600s to the 1900s. John Doyle said that many of the Irish came over because of the brutal ruling that was happening in their hometown. Many of the Irish thought that the British had nothing else but to destroy their land. This led many moving to America for something better. Ireland also had a revolt in 1798, led by the United Irishmen. This group was founded in 1791 by Wolfe Tone. Tone was born in 1763 and he died in 1798. Doyle's father was in this group, but when the French Revolutionary government broke up this group, which was caused by the Battle of Vinegar, which occurred on June 21st, 1798. Because of this war, Doyle's father fled. John Doyle's father lived in the U.S. ever since.
In this letter, Doyle talks about the reasons he left Ireland, reasons for going to the U.S., description of his trip, his social conditions, and his job prospects. Let's take a closer look at this letter.
In this letter, Doyle explains why he had left Ireland. Doyle, like many other Irish immigrants, came to America during the 1840s, which at the time Ireland had a potato famine. He makes it clear in the beginning of this letter that he left his lovely family and that the nights are restless. How long the days, how cheerless and fatiguing the nights, since I parted with my Fanny and my little angel.
In this letter, Doyle explains why he had decided to go to the United States. At the ending of his letter, he reminds and encourages himself to why he had come. They include, he was able to keep the money he had earned, as well as send it to his wife and his son so they too could join him. This is what many immigrant families tried to do. Another reason why he had to come to the United States, he didn't have to give his money to tax collectors. In this letter, Doyle explains what his trip was like. Doyle, in his own poetic words, explains his homesick feeling. He writes, "Seasickness, nor the toils of the ocean, nor the starvation which I suffered, nor the constant apprehension of our crazy old vessel going to the bottom, for 10 tenuous weeks, could ever wear me to the pitch. It is as if my mind was easy about you." In this part, he explains how hard and long his journey was, but that he could not really focus on them when he had his wife constantly on his mind. He goes on to explain that he had underestimated his journey. He writes, "I'm amazed and confounded to think of the coolness with which I used to calculate on parting with my little family, even for a day, to come to a strange country." In the letter, he says the day on which he lands, and that he would not again pay to go on a ship. "We were safely landed in Philadelphia on the 7th of October, and I had not so much as would pay my passage in a boat to take me ashore." When he lands, he gets over that terrible and long trip because of the sight of his father, which he knew right away, and his experience with him is unexplainable. I, however, contrived to get over, and it was not long until I made out my father, whom I instantly knew, and no one could describe our feelings, when I made myself known to him and received his embraces, after an absence of 17 years. In this letter, Doyle explains his social conditions. He writes, "As yet it's only natural I should feel lonesome in this country. 99 out of every 100 who come to it are at first disappointed." He also in this letter describes the ways of the Americans and how they are different from the Irish. However, an enterprising man, desirous of advancing himself in the world, will despise everything for coming to this free country, where man is allowed to thrive and flourish without having a penny taken out of his pocket by government. No visits from tax gatherers, constables, or soldiers. Everyone at liberty to act and speak as he likes, provided he does not hurt another, to slander government, abuse public men in their office to their faces, wear your hat in court, and smoke a cigar while speaking to the judge as familiarly as if he was a common mechanic. Hundreds go unpunished for crimes for which they would be surely hung in Ireland. In fact, they are so tender of life in this country that a person should have a very great interest to get himself hanged for anything. In this letter, Doyle explains what his job prospects are. Doyle got right to work. The morning after he landed, he went to work on printing. He goes on to explain in the letter the pay he receives. "I think a journeyman printer's wage might be averaged at $7.50 a week all the year round. I worked in Philadelphia 5½ weeks and saved £6. That is counting $4 to the pound. In this currency of the United States, the dollar is worth 5 shillings Irish." He also says that a job printing and book binding was overfilled with workers in New York, and due to that he was without job for 12 days. In this letter, he also had said he saved $60, which he spent on pictures for New Year's Day, and is selling, but says that he is doing surprisingly well, thanks be to God, and on the 16th of January he was able to deposit $100 in the Bank of the United States. We're going to bring this letter to the end and see what else John Doyle had written. At the ending of this letter, he explains that the U.S. is still a good place and is still a way better place for a poor man of Ireland, but you might mumble at the beginning and might even want to leave. He also writes, "One thing I think is certain, that if immigrants knew beforehand what they have to suffer for about the first 6 months after leaving home, in every respect, they would never come here. But a man should want to advance himself, and it still has its benefits." Now let's answer some unanswered questions. I think immigration is a turning point in U.S. history because of the impact it had not only on the American lives, but as well as the immigrant lives. It brought so much different things to the table. It brought experience that we wouldn't have if immigrants never came. What happened because of Irish immigration? Irish immigrants filled the jobs the natives would not or could not fill, either because of what the job was or the skill. The immigrants brought new ways of living, which some natives adapted in their lives and work ethics. In what new direction did the nation or the world move as a result of Irish immigrants? The world moved in more industrialization direction. With more skillful hands, they were able to get more things done and continued growing in an industrialized way. It moved up in a great direction because each immigrant brought new ideas and as well new skills and a way of living that was adapted by everyone. Did the people at the time realize that a turning point had been reached, or did it take time to assess the impact of immigration? The people took time to assess the impact of immigration because they were more focused on what they thought the immigrants brought and took from them. So many are focusing on that, but there were few and are few that can understand that each immigrant was a great, heavy impact in everyone's lives, not in a bad way, but in a helpful hand way.
I got waves that are tossing me, crashing all over my beliefs, and in all sincerity, Lord, I wanna be yours. So pull me out of this mess I'm in, 'cause I know I'm wandering. Lead my soul back home again, I've always been yours. And This world may push, may pull, but your love it never fails. You leave